Prime Minister, Your Excellency, Honourable Speaker of Parliament, Your Excellency, Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, all protocol observed. I want, first of all, to express my enormous gratitude for the wonderful hospitality I've enjoyed during these days in Fiji, and for the very warm welcome that I felt when I was addressing the Parliament today, this morning. I said that I was feeling twice at home. At home because as a former parliamentarian, I'm always at home in the Parliament, but particularly at home because it was in the Fijian Parliament. And I really felt entirely at home during these days. This visit is essentially a visit of solidarity with the Pacific Island states and of gratitude towards the Republic of Fiji. Solidarity with the Pacific Island states that are in the front line of the dramatic impacts of the climate change that we already have, and will be in the front line of the most dramatic impacts of the future if we are not able to reverse the present trend, if we are not able to defeat climate change as it is the obligation of our generation. And what I felt in the meeting I had the honor to attend yesterday of the Pacific Island Forum, listening to the leaders of the Pacific countries, was something that deeply impressed me. That this region, that doesn't contribute practically at all to climate change and suffers largely more than any other region in the world the negative impacts of climate change, is not only working hard to build resilience of the countries, the communities, the people, is not only working hard to protect the different islands in relation to the devastating impacts of storms and the huge threat represented by a rising sea level. No, these countries are at the same time being exemplary in the way they are addressing mitigation, in the way they are reducing emissions, in the way they are investing in renewable energy, and in many other aspects that correspond to a true lesson to those that are basically those that more influence have in global climate, to those that are the biggest polluters of our world. It is a lesson to see how the Pacific Island states are investing to protect the planet and not only to protect themselves. And this lesson should be understood and should be learned. And this lesson is urgent because we are not winning this battle. Climate change is still running faster than what we are. And we have been witnessing in the last few years a very challenging evolution. The 4 years that ended in 1918 were the hottest in record. We have now record levels, also not only in relation to temperatures in the world, but in relation to the level of the sea and in relation to the concentrations of greenhouse gases in the atmosphere. The level of CO2 in the atmosphere today is only comparable to what it was 3 million years ago. And I remember not far enough when it was comparable with what it was 800,000 years ago, which means that things are getting worse and are getting worse very quickly. It is absolutely impossible to understand, and it is something that should be a shame in several parts of the world, that years after the Paris Agreement, emissions are still rising. Rising last year, rising this year. This is totally unacceptable from the political point of view and from the moral point of view, and this is something that needs to be reversed. Now we have a clear evidence coming from the scientific community. And that evidence is that we cannot tolerate the possibility of having an increase of temperature above 1.5 degrees Celsius in the end of the century. Even 1.5 degrees Celsius will mean a lot of problems to everybody. But above that level, we will face catastrophic consequences for the planet. And it is not only the possibility of some atolls in the Pacific sinking, because let's be clear, if an atoll in the Pacific sinks, it means the planet will be sinking with that atoll. It is clear today from the point of view of scientific evidence that to reach this objective, we need to be carbon neutral worldwide in 2050, which means that we need immediately reverse the present trend. And that means transformational measures in relation to not only energy, but also mobility, industry, agriculture, the oceans. Measures that require strong political will that unfortunately I see fading in different parts of the world after the Paris Agreement. This needs to be reversed. And this is the reason why I'm convening a summit in order to create momentum for countries to be able in 2020, when they present their new national determined contributions, to do the same that Fiji is doing and to do the same that the Pacific Island states are doing, which is to present their engagements in line with the objective of keeping the growth of the rise of temperatures in 1.5 degrees. Not to do it is a suicide for the planet, and this generation cannot be responsible for this suicide. This is what is our duty in relation to our children and grandchildren. It is indeed true that when I heard the Prime Minister saying that this was the battle of his life, I said, well, as Secretary General of the United Nations, I unfortunately have many battles, but as a grandfather, this is indeed the battle of my life. And this is something that I owe to my 3 granddaughters. And by the way, Prime Minister spoke in a very eloquent way about the need to have women fully engaged in relation to climate action, and to have the empowerment of women as one of the most important instruments for us to be able to succeed in climate action. Now, having 3 granddaughters, I have to say that the empowerment of women is also for me a family strategy. This solidarity with the Pacific Islands means that we need to do everything to increase the ambition in mitigation, in adaptation, and in finance. And we need to be able to make the different financial instruments that are at our disposal, the commitment made in Paris for the 100 billion US dollars for mitigation, adaptation for the developing world, the Green Climate Fund, the commitments already made by the World Bank and other international financial institutions. All these needs to be mobilized in a way that is friendly for Pacific Island states. And I recognize that states with very little population, with an administration with very relatively little capacity, have sometimes difficulties to access the different instruments that are at their disposal. We must create instruments that are friendly to countries that are small, that do not have a large capacity, but that badly need the kind of funding that is absolutely crucial for the investments in adaptation that populations need for resilience to be established. And you can count on my full commitment during the summit and also before and after the summit in order to make sure that the international community is able to respect the engagements made in Paris and to make these engagements be transformed according to what the scientific evidence now tells us. But this visit is also a visit of gratitude to Fiji. I have been for 2 years and almost a half, Secretary General of the United Nations. And there is a country that during this period has presided the General Assembly, has assumed world leadership in relation to the oceans. And by the way, the battle for the oceans is as dramatic as the battle for climate change. And exactly as in relation to climate change, it's a battle we are not yet winning. But there was a country, I was saying, that assumed leadership in the global commitment to address the problems of the oceans, the protection of the oceans, and the need to reestablish the oceans as a common good for humankind. A country, the same country, was able to lead the international community in relation to the climate change dimension, presiding during 1 year the global intergovernmental effort in relation to climate change. A country that has soldiers and police fighting in several of the most dangerous areas in the world and sacrificing everything, sometimes their lives because of that. A country that has played an extremely important role in all areas of activity of the United Nations, being elected for the Human Rights Council and being very actively engaged in all debates in the support to the reforms of the United Nations. Well, that country, imagine, is not one of the permanent members of the Security Council. That country is Fiji. And it is almost inconceivable that a small country like Fiji, with so many problems to solve, with so many challenges due to climate change and its impact in its own society, with a relatively small dimension and a location that is not in the center of the most important trade movements in the world, it is almost inconceivable that a country like Fiji managed to have one of the strongest influence in the work of the United Nations and in the work of the international community during these 2.5 years. And this is something that not only needs to be fully recognized, but it's all something that makes me say it is with deep gratitude that I come to Fiji and that I express my enormous admiration for the efforts that the government and the people of Fiji are doing to fully assume this global citizenship. Fiji citizens are citizens of the world, and Fiji is today an influential country in world affairs with, I would say, an impact that is out of proportion with the dimension of the country or the number of citizens of its population. I am deeply grateful for that, and I want to express to His Excellency the Prime Minister my enormous admiration for the work that yourself, your government and your people have been doing for the benefit of us all. And so you'll allow me to raise my glass and to ask all of you to drink for the happiness and prosperity of the people of one of the most beautiful and one of the most active countries in the world, the Republic of Fiji.